Good morning, all. As I bring this bowl, let's relax into this common time and space, realizing that we need to be together. We yearn for connection, the familiar faces of friends, and the sound of shared voices. Thank you, Al. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalists of the Chester River on this Sunday, 1 week before Christmas. I'm Jan Sprinkle, service leader today with the Reverend Sue Browning, our regular minister, and frequent guest musician on the piano, Al Martinez. We're glad to see everyone here in the sanctuary with us and everyone also on Zoom. We have some announcements. First, as was clearly posted on the door, please remember to sign in on the attendance sheets when you come in on the welcoming table in the foyer. Second, it is with much disappointment that we announce the cancellation of the winter solstice celebration and potluck on Wednesday, December 21st, due to COVID among the host and the leaders of this beloved celebration. We hope to gather next year. Another announcement, a reminder that we're wrapping up our holiday sharing drive today. Thanks to all who have contributed so generously, you can still contribute today with a clearly marked donation in the offering basket or see Lynn Dollinger after the service. And finally, a couple of reminders. First, the Eve of the Eve is still on at this point, but there are no services on Christmas Day and a Zoom-only service on New Year's Day.
Pre-recorded, no.
Oh, pre-recorded?
It's a pre-recorded.
Oh, there you
No
go.
Zoom.
It's the technical difference. And that, I think, concludes the announcements that I have on the listing. This morning, as we move to the chalice lighting, in addition to our chalice lighting, we will later be lighting the menorah for the first day of Hanukkah. But first, our UU chalice with the words in your order of service. if you wouldn't mind following along. We light this chalice
as a symbol of the light within all creation. We light this chalice for truth. May the search for truth be with us always. We light the chalice for love. May the love for others be strong in our hearts. And our opening hymn is hymn number 238, and that is in your gray hymnal. And we have a relatively small group, so please sing loudly and energetically. No pressure here, folks. Please rise and body your spirit.
Start right at the beginning. That was a test to see how well we were reading. Have a seat, please. In preparation for today's sermon, I read some about the Hubble, James Webb telescope, and I was completely stunned by the magnitude of those projects, the capabilities, and everything that they have learned. In my understanding of such things, and I'm still the little kid who remembers the lullaby, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder who you are, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder who you are. Well, as we will hear from Sue, now we know who you are, little star. We know where you are, we know where you came from, what you're made of, and a whole lot more. And I can't wait to hear. So, I'm ready for your sermon. Not yet. But now it is a time for reflection.
So we're going to try something today. Today is a little bit about being quiet together. We'll begin with words from David Rankin, and then we'll do a little bit of a guided meditation on our own. There must be a time when we cease speaking to be fully present with ourselves. There must be a time when we exclude clamor by listening to nothing whatsoever. There must be a time when we forego our plans as if we had no plans at all. There must be a time when we abandon conceits and tap into a deeper wisdom. There must be a time when we stop striving and find the peace within. I invite everyone As you're comfortable, have your feet on the floor. I invite everyone, a mix of those with masks, those without. Breathe in deeply. Send your own inhale, your own exhale. And I offer the words again. There must be a time when we cease speaking to be fully present with ourselves. There must be a time when we exclude clamor by listening to nothing whatsoever. There must be a time when we forego our plans as if we had no plans at all. There must be a time when we abandon conceits and tap into a deeper wisdom. There must be a time when we stop striving and find the peace within. Let's take a minute in silence together. There is power in quiet. There is power in connection. Over this next week, as we hold in our thoughts and prayers those at the border, those struggling with illness, those facing holidays with new gaps, may we remember this moment of quiet spent together. Amen. We'll now have our acknowledgments of the heart. Jan will lead that.
I would light the first candle, recognizing what was called in today's paper the triple-demic, the surge of COVID, which has affected many of us throughout Chestertown at least, and the RSV, the respiratory problem that is affecting so many children now, and the regular influenza. So I'll light the candle for that, and continuing for the people of Ukraine who are suffering so terribly at this season. I now invite anyone who has a sharing to come up to the microphone, and I will light a candle. Thank you.
I just want to express the joy in my heart for all the incredible generosity that this church once again has contributed to needy families in our community through their gifts and their donations.
I had the honor this past week of sharing dinner with some dear friends, John and Pam. It was their 50th wedding anniversary, and John is suffering from COPD, and they admitted that they didn't expect to be able to celebrate their wedding anniversary together.
You know, I'm still thinking back on that hymn we sang, and I just wanted to say that we've never been known as strong singers, but when we get a song or a hymn that we know, we can really build it out. But when we see a hymn that we've never seen before, never sung in all the years I've been here, and we see those little squiggles on the page that musicians call notes, and you're looking at it and you're listening to your neighbor hoping that he's going to kind of pick up something and you can blend in, you know, there's a lot of spirit and faith in that, and that too is UUCR.
Thank you, Annie. I think that explains some of the issues we had.
Not all the chorale singers are sick. Well, many of them.
I'll light one more for all those thoughts and concerns and joys that weren't shared but are held in our hearts. Thank you. We'll now receive this morning's offertory. I'll pass the baskets and Al will play some music. Anyone here who didn't recognize that was a theme from Star Trek.
So you can tell which of us watched all sitcoms. If it had been Green Acres, I would have had every word down. How many people here knew that was Star Trek? Not as many as you'd think. Oh, I feel so vindicated. But thank you, Al, for doing something a little different.
Sue and I will now share a reading from Joy Garrison Wasson. A group of students were asked to list what they thought were the present 7 wonders of the world. There were some disagreements, but the following received the most votes: Egypt's Great Pyramids, the Taj Mahal, the Grand Canyon, the Panama Canal, the Empire State Building, St. Peter's Basilica, and China's Great Wall. While gathering the votes, the teacher noted that one student had not finished her paper yet. So she asked the little girl if she was having trouble with her list.
Well, the girl replied, "Yes, a little." I couldn't quite make up my mind because there were so many. The teacher said, "Well, tell us what you have and maybe we can help." The girl hesitated and then she read, "I think the 7 wonders of the world are to see, to hear, to touch, to taste, to smell, to laugh, and to love." The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Wonder. Wonder is a word that means amazing, things that are surprising maybe, things that make your head turn. Picture that little girl. If you had to add to this list of amazing things in the world, yes, I'm going to ask you to participate here. What might you add that might be something you would consider a wonder in the world?
The birth of a child.
The birth of a child. To feel.
Compassion.
Compassion.
Connection.
Connection.
To share.
To share.
Birds.
Birds.
Children.
Children. Any other man-made ones that you consider a wonder of the world?
To read.
To read.
Libraries.
Libraries. Who thought that up? So today, as we talk a little bit about wonders in the world, I ask us to keep that reading in mind. And to think about what it does to have a sense of wonder in your life. So my other question, this one's rhetorical, no need to answer this out loud. How long can you sit in silence? I tried to give you a full minute earlier. I don't think I quite got to that minute. Have you ever tried to find what is that proper quiet position to do meditation? Because most often we hear that meditation instructors suggest that we focus on our breathing and that we take in that breath slowly and release. It's just a wonder to be aware of the most basic of life's sustaining forces. And then leaders, when they're leading these meditations, I've never led it, I know we have meditation groups that meet right here, they often ask you or invite you to notice what it is that comes into your mind in all that silence. Maybe you're thinking about your upcoming dentist appointment, or you're worried about travel over the holidays, and they invite you to notice that, and then to let it drift by, to let the thought go. It's not that we're blank slates, and our minds do drift in that quiet, there's some learning there. But the invitation is to let go without judging the thought as being good or bad, or making comparison to your neighbor, or what they're going to be cooking for dinner, or what's going to be going on. The invitation is to then return to the quiet, to return to the breathing, that sense of center. In the reading I did earlier, there was a line that kept catching me all week. There must be a time when we exclude clamor by listening to nothing whatsoever. And it struck me how completely impossible that is. If you were outside, those birds are there. There's the quiet rustling, there's the leaves. And it's a tall ask to imagine getting to nothing whatsoever. What might be in that deepest center? Our Quaker friends, a couple of folks have noticed that when we set our church up, our congregation up like this, our Quaker friends almost always begin in some sort of a circle or a square, and they begin in complete silence and quiet, making room to hear something from deep within. The thought is you don't speak until you've grounded yourself and you've prepared. Somewhat, this is a season of preparation. So it's in that calm. Maybe we find peace, maybe we see concerns a new way, maybe there's a gentle light. Maybe that quiet, no matter what you do and no matter how much you try to clear it out, becomes a place where you're sorting stuff out. There's a lot of versions of the Serenity Prayer. Some we're more familiar with than others, but there's a version by W. Bartley that says this: "For every ailment under the sun, there is a remedy, or there is none. If there is one, try to find it. If there is none, never mind it." What do we control? What don't we control? Where will our decisions matter? What can just wait until later? Sometimes in that quiet, you may end up in a space of gratitude, a space of sensing your interdependence with one another. We've talked a little bit about gratitude being that recognition that we don't sit in that quiet space alone, and maybe we need to ask for help or receive help or offer help. Maybe in that quiet you find some energy or something new or creative. But what we do know is we are just about at that shortest night. And these dark nights, including the days just feel different. The sun's at a little different angle, offer us a setting for quiet reflection. I think one of the things that especially happens under the night sky is we feel small. We feel small against something so broad and so grand. We have the perspective of our own particularities, the place that's itching, that little nail that needs to be cut. We see our stresses in a larger setting. It doesn't make our concerns go away, but it sets a context. Earlier, Jan mentioned the Webb telescope, and it was last year. Who knows what day it went up last year? Christmas Day. Went up on Christmas Day, and the telescope is positioned over 1 million miles away from Earth. It picks up images from galaxies, light years that have been traveling for 13 billion years. They always say 13.4. I mean, they don't even round it there. 13.4 billion years ago, light started traveling, and we can now see some of those images. You think they can find what they're calling the original galaxies? What amazes me is if you think about the Webb telescope, it is about the size of a tennis court, probably a little narrower and a little longer than this sanctuary, but not much. It is absolutely beyond what I can conceive that you put this piece with a bunch of mirrors 1 million miles away so it can see 13 billion miles away. It is just amazing. And every bit of that telescope can be explained scientifically. It didn't just by chance end up in the right place, in the right spot. I preached a version of this sermon last week in Easton, and they have a little choir, and there were 3 engineers in the back row. I said, "This sermon was for you." And one of them jumps up, he goes, "Did you know there were 331 possible points of failure as they put it up there that had no backup?" If a failure had occurred, there wasn't a plan B. It's all scientific. And yet it's hard not to be in awe. We are amazed. There's a sense of the known, so much we know, and the unknown just being woven together there. And it's easy to just exclaim, it's just miraculous. Albert Einstein offered, there are 2 ways to live your life. One is though nothing is a miracle. The other is though everything is a miracle. I'd love a chance to interview Einstein. My guess is in this quote, he's inviting us just to be amazed by human life, as well as our interconnections with other life and our ties to the minerals, the planets, the stars, the sun, and everything beyond. It's an invitation to live and lean into amazement. Einstein wouldn't be telling us to do this because stuff defies natural laws, but because there is a wow factor. It touches our senses, it shakes our core. If we think of that little girl, what she was naming, there's no way to scientifically sometimes explain taste. I guess that Einstein would also share that even what we know of natural laws is just a slice. Even what he figured out is always being challenged and tested. and adapted. And here's another quote from Einstein. Man finds God behind each door that science opens. Think about that one. Man finds God behind each door that science opens. We learn more and then we're in awe. We can't quite get our arms around it, but we have the shared feeling of experience. I picture Einstein, he knew about the tiniest things in our bodies, the little bits in the universe, and the very grand. And he found we needed to live in awe. I think when you do live with that sense of wonder, just that sense of trusting wonder, instead of trying to reduce everything to each individual fact and proof, we live in a more healthy way. It's, I think, in this time, this darkness, this zooming in and zooming out, we can think about what rises for you. Maybe in those times you look for miracles. Do you even hope for a miracle? We hope that everyone in the world, we ask for it often in our centering time, has food. That on one given day, 2 given days, a whole month, everyone of the world will properly nourished. It's not impossible. It's just never been implemented. How would the stars need to align for everyone to be fed? Would it take a miracle? We hope for an end to wars. It's not something outside of the natural laws, but it's never ever happened. Would that be a miracle? For most of human existence, viruses, cancers, and infections have caused deaths. Vaccines, antibiotics, chemotherapy, radiation, immunotherapy, and so much more changed our understandings. Think about all the things that had to align for those things to be true. That we could cure some things. Way more than 331 points of failure. I think in Einstein's quote, that everything's a miracle or nothing, he had in mind advice that we should live as if everything is a miracle. I don't for 1 minute think that he thought we should live as if nothing is. Miracles capture the highly improbable, the moment of conception, the accidents that happen in life, good and bad, that impact our lives. Just the fact that we are here, human life, all the forms of life, the geology of the earth, everything that came together so we could survive and celebrate a holiday and do our part to have a few more people's needs met. So in our time of quiet and our breathing, there are so many possibilities before us. Maybe part of the invitation is not to be overwhelmed by how many of them there are. Maybe on the darkest night, the invitation is to let go, to surrender a bit, to put that clamor aside. Sure, our choices shape little bits of the whole. What if we actually trust that having a sense of what's a miracle, having a sense of what's improbable, impossible, just knowing that's not there, is in itself a life-sustaining force. In the Unitarian Universalist, we have our principles, but underlying our principles are the sources of our faith. And our first source, so when they list the world religions and the different pieces that are there, the first source is the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. I think about that. If we can be okay with the mystery. One of the things I've thought about this season is the way we feel humble in those moments. Humble's not real convenient for a lot of Unitarian Universalists. It means we're dependent on stuff so much beyond our control. It's not an easy question. Is it worthwhile to be humble? We're taught to be responsible and accountable. We're taught that with hard work, diligence will succeed. We're told that the world is our oyster and anything is possible. And yet being humble is to have a modest estimate of our own importance. And I think the images of the holidays, the miracle in the oil from the Hanukkah lamps, the scene at the manger, the solstice recognition of the shortest night, they all ask us to think about our vulnerability. What will we trust in the immensity of the world? Can we let go of the certainty that there's just one path? That the answer is either this or the answer is that? Can we, in the quiet of the dark, ponder the imaginable and the unimaginable and just be in awe of a cold, dark night? And then, after we've been in that darkness, may we also recall that beyond the quiet of darkness, we have the soft light of early morning, time of potential emerging. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Herschel suggests this: our goal should be to live in radical amazement, to get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal, everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual, he says, is to be amazed. May it be so. Blessed be. We now have a final hymn as we transition toward the lighting of the Hanukkah light. And it is Light One Candle. And it is 221 in this hymnal. And then Amy is going to come up and help Jan and I light the Hanukkah candle.
And let me suggest, not that this one is too difficult, but it is long, so we will just do verse 1. I did underestimate. Absolutely.
So I invite Amy to come forward, and we're going to tell a little bit of a story here. And then we are going to light the Hanukkah light. I mentioned earlier the sources of our faith, and someone asked me, why do we list the world religions separate from the Jewish and Christian traditions? And it's because when they came up with the sources, 40, 50 years ago, they were working through them, and they recognized Unitarian Universalism came out of Christian traditions, and Christian traditions didn't come out of Judaism. In a way they did, in a way they didn't. They're separate, but it was a recognition of a lot of the folks that were finding Unitarian Universalism had Jewish and Christian background. So lots has changed. There's some rewrites of whole lots of stuff going on. So I offer a background on the Jewish celebration of Hanukkah from someone who grew up with Christian backgrounds. So I do so with reverence and ready to be corrected. Does anyone here grew up with Jewish background that knows significant? Okay. Amy's married to somebody Jewish. So Hanukkah is also known as the Jewish Festival of Lights, and it's a celebration for two different miracles. As we talk about miracles today, one, it was a great Jewish military victory, but it's also the story when they didn't think there would be light, and yet a little bit of oil lasted way longer, the supply of oil for the temple. So the menorah holds 9 candles, one for each of the 8 nights, and an additional candle that we use to light the other ones. And when the candle is lit on the second one, we're going to start from the right, we're going to do it that way. And we will light them using the blessings. Amy knows part of it in Hebrew. And the other thing that was fascinating as Amy and I talked through this is her family does it differently than some of the stuff you can Google nowadays. Mm-hmm. So Amy, maybe you could come to the mic and share a little bit about your own family's tradition, or that mic's great, about what you did and why your family lights a menorah.
Well, Rob's family is Jewish, and when our children, Andrew and Sarah, were growing up, they spent Hanukkah with their grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles. And we would, it was just a celebration. We had dinner together, we played some games. It was, an important holiday for them. At home, we would light the menorah, and about around dinner time. And Andrew and Sarah learned the blessing that is said during when the candle is being lit. And the other thing is that it gave our children a sense of their Jewish identity, which I'm really very proud of, and they still carry it with them. So,
so are you're
yeah.
You're going to do.
So I'm going to light the Shamash candle, which is the middle or helper candle. And I read this morning that you light this first, and then you say the blessing, and that's not the way we did it at home, but I'll do it the way we're supposed to do it. So tonight is it really starts tonight at sundown, okay? So there are, and I also read on Google that there are 3 blessings for the first night. Did you want to read those?
So I'm going to just read through the 3 that you normally say more in an educational sense, and then Amy will light it using what her family did. Blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to light the Hanukkah lights. Blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, who performed miracles for our ancestors in their days at this season. Blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this season. The other thing in the educational side here is lighting the candle during the day sometimes is done in public for this educational piece, but it really is the reverent place is to light it at night at sundown. And so with that, we invite Amy to light our first night of Hanukkah candle.
So what I read this morning was we'd say the blessing and then we'll light the candle, for the first night. And I'll give you the translation first. Praised are you, God, Spirit of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to light the Hanukkah candles. And here's my best Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotah v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. And one last thing. You just let it burn down. You don't blow them out, and it takes about half an hour, 40 minutes.
The other piece I learned is a lot of times we put the menorah in windows to let that light shine out and to share the news of miracles, because that is part of being in a religious community, and whatever your traditions are, is to declare where you find hope. And it's therefore done in a public way that we can see. Okay. Thank you, Amy, and thank you for letting us use your family's menorah for today. I think we're going to actually sing the final hymn sitting down. And I invite us to stay seated. And it is 3:52, and I'd ask us to do it in the spirit of quiet of this service and the beauty of these lights. Jan will stand up so we don't need to start. We offer our closing words, and then we will extinguish the chalice. We offer these closing words, remembering that the universe is so much larger than our ability to comprehend. Let us go forth from this time together with the resolve to stop trying to reduce the incomprehensible for our convenience. Go in peace, go in love, go knowing love surrounds you wherever you may go. Jan will now lead us as we extinguish our chalice, but we'll let the Hanukkah lights burn for a little bit.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet
again.
Seated for the postlude. And try to guess this one.
better fit than the Star Trek guys. Have a wonderful week, and I hope we'll see folks at Eve of the Eve next Saturday night. Take care. Friday night. Saturday night, you can come to Easton. I get to do it twice next week. Take care. Thanks for that, Gretchen. Have a great week.